everyone, this is Kyne. Welcome back to my channel. This is my third challenge video for the 2018 Face Awards, and our theme for this round was icons. So I've chosen to pay homage to the 89-year-old Japanese artist Yayoi Kusama. You know, a lot of names passed through my head while I was thinking of the people that I could channel for this video, and I resisted the temptation to do any pop stars or divas. It was just gonna be far too predictable. I chose Yayoi Kusama for a couple of different reasons. I have spotlighted her in the past in some of the work that I've done with CBC Arts here in Canada, and I just thought to myself after doing that initial look, what would a full head-to-toe Yayoi Kusama and Kyne mashup look like? I just fell in love with her art and how awe-inspiring and larger than life it was, while at the same time being so simple and minimalistic. If you know me for long enough, you know that I'm a huge nerd and I've always loved science and math and space, and they say that astronomy is the most humbling science because looking at the vastness of the universe just reminds you of how small and insignificant you are. And that's the type of feeling of awe and wonder that I feel when I look at Kusama's art. And on top of that, she's just a hipster and a feminist, and I just think that she's a visionary. What makes someone an icon is what they do. It's not so much about what they look like. As for the Face Awards, this is gonna be the last video challenge like this, meaning that this is a look that determines who among the top 12 is gonna advance to the finale. So please vote for me. I want to say thanks so much to everybody who's already been voting for me for this entire process. If you haven't been voting for me for whatever reason, this is the time to do it. So I'll leave the link down below, and I'll also leave some more information about Yayoi Kusama for you to go check out, and I'm just gonna jump into the tutorial now. Compared to what I've done previously, this tutorial is actually going to be pretty simple. I'm switching it up and doing something a little understated and minimalistic. So I'm first moisturizing and prepping with Vichy's Mineral 89 products, and I'm going to block out my brows right away with Prosade. We're going to go for like this alien browless look today. So I'm going to paint over these and make them disappear. The reason for the glue in the first step was to make them flat to the skin to diminish the texture. You could also just paint them white without gluing them, but to make them fully disappear, I think it's just attention to detail, and it's a skill that I think every artist should add to their tool belt. So to paint our white base, I started with a white water-activated paint first because those are the easiest to get a large, quick coat. But white is a really hard color to get super opaque. Like, I look like any Filipino mom after putting on baby powder. So to cover up the patchiness, I went over it again using a white cream paint, like the SFX cream colors. Don't worry if it's still not flawless after all of this, because the dots that we're gonna add later will cover the face anyway. Now, water-activated paints are quick and they dry almost right away, so there's not much room for blending those, whereas cream paints don't dry at all, so you can blend and get a really even coat. But the downside is that it will smudge because they don't dry, so you need to set everything with a colorless or white powder. White powder, like an eyeshadow or a face powder, will intensify the brightness while setting the creams, whereas a colorless translucent powder is only going to set, but it can be used on top of any color without altering it, so it's good to have both in your kit. So now I'm going to do our eyes with some pink eyeshadow first, then I'm going to transition into the red. I really like using large eyeshadow brushes to make it really blown out and diffused. I'm concentrating this color all around my eye socket. If you don't have one, just make one up. We all exaggerate our features anyway. I really want this shadow to be smoked out and even spill onto my cheek a little bit, like as blush. But before doing that, I'm going to fill in my lower waterline with white. And then, like I mentioned before, I'm going to smoke out that pink down onto the cheekbones. I went in with a red eyeshadow next, on top of where we put the pink as our main color. The reason we put that pink down first was so that the red would blend into the pink before blending into my white skin. I don't really know why I chose this color scheme. I thought it would look good with my red hair, and I guess it sort of resembles like Japanese geisha makeup. I had this idea, like I said, to spill the shadow down to the cheeks for a more sad, cute look, but later on it was a little too much for me after I saw how it looked with all the dots. I didn't really have much planned for this makeup. I was kind of just going with the flow and seeing where it took me. On the lid, I decided to carve out a tall crease with more white paint, only to exaggerate the size of my eyelid. I didn't necessarily want a sharp cut crease, so I blended the edge with some red shadow on a small brush. Now for eyeliner, you want to go for a short, thick wing, like a chode. We want the eyes to look really doll-like, so I'm not winging this out far. And on the bottom, I'm just going to outline my white inner corner liner and underline my lash line down there. Super simple. I didn't want my nose to completely disappear here, so I took a little bit of pink very, very subtly on a brush and added it to the tip of my nose, almost as a little contour, but also just to make it look like cute and rosy. And I highlighted the bridge and the tip of my nose with white face powder to make it look more like a contour and less just like pink eyeshadow on my nose. And I found that really made the difference. So now was the fun part where we get to paint the dots. It's also a little bit tense because you don't want to mess up or else you have to repaint the white. If you're in a rush, you can use stencils or little stamps to paint your circles. I used a stamping method when I was painting my dress, which I'll talk about later. But on my makeup, I found it pretty therapeutic to just paint circles with a brush. Since this is a pretty no-brainer process, I thought I'd talk a little bit about Yayoi Kusama's work. She was actually born in Japan and she moved to New York, where in the 60s, she made this big impact in the pop art movement. Today, she is really most known for her exhibits of infinity mirror rooms and endless polka dots, but they're not just these Instagrammable selfie spots. The polka dots can represent the sun, the moon, or you and I. It's like the Earth's place in a sea of stars, or like a single person's place in a huge crowd. It's about forsaking our ego and our sense of individuality and confronting the fact that our lives are transient and temporary. Personally, I'm not religious or spiritual, and I don't believe in any afterlife. I think our lives really are transient and temporary and objectively meaningless, but that doesn't mean we still can't find fulfillment through love and friendship and music and color and art. Our time here might be infinitesimally small, but it can still be fabulous. Speaking of fabulous, let's go back to me. After I painted my dots, I smoked out my shadow a little bit with black because I really wanted more darkness and definition through the eye versus just having it a plain red. And of course, for the lips, I went for a classic red lip to finish off the color scheme that we were going with. I then added some circle lenses and false lashes, and after looking at myself really in the mirror, here's where I wasn't really feeling too happy with the shape of the eyeshadow. So I overlapped this under eye with some more white to recede that color a little bit. I just went a little bit overboard, but I just redid the white paint, set it with powder, reblended the eyeshadow, and repainted those couple of dots. And this is the finished result. The makeup really was that simple. This wig that I'm wearing started off as the long red afro that I styled a few videos ago, and I detangled it and straightened it and butchered the haircut. When I first formulated this look in my head months ago, before even being in the Face Awards, I had prepared this black pinup hairstyle to go with it, but to fit it more into our theme of icons, I decided instead to nod to Kusama's signature red bob. After cutting the hair, I actually found it really helpful to curl the ends, and I used a flat iron, which I rarely ever do because I always work with curlers and steam, but to curl just the ends inwards, I think this was a good method, especially for the bangs since it made them look a lot cleaner than they were. Just make sure that your synthetic wig is heat safe before you try using a hot tool on it, and if you do, put the tool on the lowest heat setting possible. Now let's talk about this costume. It's made out of like a neoprene scuba fabric. I'll start with the bottom first, which is a huge circle skirt that I sewed into a circle and painted separately before adding it to the bodice so that it could lay flat. I also sewed the entire body together and painted that by stuffing it with plastic bags first to avoid bleeding through the other side. Now for paints, I used a rainbow of fabric paints that I found at Michael's, A, because it's my duty as a gay guy, and B, I was inspired by Yayoi Kusama's Obliteration Room, which is this minimalistic white with rainbow dots. But fabric paint is expensive, and as I ran out, I realized that the acrylic paints that I already owned worked almost just as well. I stamped the color on using two little makeup items with a circular lid, and even though it took so long, it was actually lots of fun. Anyway, back to the dress. Underneath it is a tulle skirt that I made using the method I showed in this mermaid dress tutorial. The purpose of the tulle skirt was to add the big cushion underneath to make the skirt sort of poof out more. The edges of the skirt are lined with horsehair braid, which is this sort of meshy material I'm holding. And what it does is it sort of makes the skirt open up more, and that's also what's giving it that curly effect at the ends. Moving on up, this is just a basic tube dress that's shaped to fit my curves, and I added a zipper going all the way down the back and up to the collar. And the collar is just this long rectangle that I added right before I added the zipper to cover up my neck so that I have to use as little makeup as possible. I also added gloves to this dress for the same reason. Now there are better ways to make gloves than what I did. All I did was trace my hand. Just be sure to give yourself lots of wiggle room because you need to fit your fists through that wrist hole. And then I just attached them to the sleeves so that they became part of the dress and so that there's no skin exposed anywhere, except for two small little holes that I cut into my thumbs so that I could use my phone. Not being able to use the touchscreen is the worst part about wearing gloves, but the dot pattern of this look allowed me to make those discreet little finger holes that would get around that problem. Guys, let me show you how ingenious of an invention this collar is. I tried out a bunch of different methods. Like I tried making this frame with wire because I've done a collar like that before. And then I was thinking I could stuff the frame in just a little crescent moon shaped fabric. So I cut out the fabric, I stuffed my little frame in that, but the wire frame kept bending in too many different ways. It was a little bit too flexible, like it would go all limp, and then all the times I had to keep reforming it back into shape, it eventually broke, so that didn't really work out. Plus I tried to sew it on to the shoulder area of my dress, but that would have just nullified the whole zipper because I wouldn't be able to open up the dress and step into it if I had a seam for the collar going all the way around here. Plus you have to think, if I have wires and it's sewn onto the dress, it just makes the dress too delicate to handle and travel with. So I thought to myself, what if I just have the collar completely separate and wore it like a backpack? So I just have a little elastic tied here to the ends of this, and giving it its shape is a little piece of foam. It's about 1.5 inches, maybe 2 inches in width. It's like the kind of foam that you'd use for your hip pads, and I just wear it like a little backpack. So the elastic goes underneath my armpits like that. This goes behind my neck, and it's just like that. It's not sewn onto anything. It's not gonna rip out. This is just foam, it's not wire, so it's totally flexible. And you can also do this with it. It's like a little hood. And you guys, that's pretty much the entire look deconstructed. Thanks so much for watching, everyone. This look has seriously been such a huge labor of love. And you guys know that I don't have a team of designers or producers or stylists or editors. I don't even have someone helping me take my picture. Everything you see on my channel is 100% me. I'm really proud of what I did. I know that you guys expect a lot from me, so I hope I not only delivered, but also delicioed. If you want to vote for me, I don't think I have to stress again how much it would mean to me, so I'll just leave the link down below for you to go vote. But if you like this look, a thumbs up would also really help me out. Let me know your thoughts down in the comments, and I'll see you guys all next time. Bye!